So if you're tuning in after viewing Reddit Game Master's video for his open collab, Project M5, or anyone's video in there for that matter, welcome! If you just clicked on my video out in the open, I highly recommend that after this video, you check out the rest of the playlist. Link to it is in the description. Hope you enjoy! I may not have been a Metroid fan for as long as many others, but even so, the legacy left behind by the series is one to be admired. It's always thrived upon creating settings that are just brimming with atmosphere that also have a heavy sense of exploration, thus making the surprises around every corner more impactful. The series resonates with a lot of people, so for this open collab, I'm just going to be the basic guy and talk about my personal favorite entry in the series, the original Metroid Prime. Out of all the things I value in the Metroid series, the exploration, the atmosphere, and the feeling of getting stronger to take on much more imposing threats, I honestly think Metroid Prime excels the most at it. It fully takes advantage of the shift to 3D by creating an entire world that is difficult to replicate in a 2D space. Talon 4 has a large mix of open-ended environments and extremely narrow corridors of all varieties. You really don't know what to expect around each corner, but there's also tons of things to be fascinated by, as the way each area is constructed from a more environmental perspective does make the planet feel like it was once a planet that was prosperous, but now has become a barren wasteland where all that remains is ruins of a civilization that used to exist and a mess created by a gallery of rogues. Sure, there is the priority of creating levels to make use of what Samus can do, and adapting the staples of the series, like certain obstacles being traversable with the correct upgrades, but it doesn't 100% compromise the authenticity of the planet. Because of the new format, there was a lot more space to work with, and they used it to actually make Talon 4 feel truly convincing, even with the more traditional themes like lava, snow, and what have you. Oh, and sidestepping from how much effort they placed in these locations, can I just talk about how much the presentation of this game really holds up? Like, this is 2002, and the environments in these models look this clean and detailed. They arguably look even better than what the two sequels have to offer. They were willing to put every last bit of detail into every location, and it all works. Even with the other video gamey aspects, I don't feel like I'm just going through a video game level. I feel like I'm off on a journey out in unknown territory, which is an effort I always commend. Another thing I can appreciate about this feeling is how this game tells a story through imagery. I mean, at base level, it's as simple as you can get, but the usage of visual storytelling, with barely any words mind you, does enhance the mood. For example, at the beginning of the game, when you're exploring an alien frigate, you don't know 100% what you're looking for, since all you have to go off of is a distress signal. But the amount of wrecked architecture and the casualties does invoke a feeling of uneasiness, and it leaves an impact. The game promptly then uses it to segue into the Parasite Queen showing up, Ridley returning, and an early escape sequence. And from that moment, throughout your entire journey on Talon 4, what exactly you're here to do, as well as what the Space Pirates and Ridley have planned, is heavily built up, and it always has great payoff. The moments this game decides to get your attention with always got mine, and stuck with me throughout every playthrough. And even the explorative aspects are done very well here, as when you start decking yourself out, there's plenty more secrets to discover, and the amount of aha moments there are in the game when you use an upgrade to get something you couldn't get to before always brings a smile to my face. But this game also uses all that for some really fun combat sequences. With how diverse you can become, and with the shifted perspective bringing a shift towards aiming your shots well while staying on the move, there's a lot of ways you can approach enemy fights, and it feels good figuring out the fastest way of disposing of them. It may take a little bit of time to get the hang of, with all the game does differently from other first-person games, but learning its mechanics and enemy patterns leads to some very satisfying payoffs, which also extends to boss fights. There are not that many, but the ones that are here provide new experiences that test different skills, and are just a blast to fight in general. Easy shout out goes to Meta Ridley, who attacks viciously and always requires a keen eye in order to avoid his onslaught before unloading plasma into his chest. Best Ridley fight in video game history. It will take a lot to convince me otherwise. All this about how Talon 4 is presented and what lies ahead absolutely gets enforced by the one thing I love the most about this game: the approach to the first-person perspective. The fact that you're looking at everything through Samus's eyes is done amazingly, as you're given the chance to look at every background detail from a completely different point of view, and the action that is done feels different, but in a way that makes the overall experience refreshing. But this game goes beyond that. There's little details like certain effects getting on your visor, and being able to see Samus's face in certain instances, And then there's the scan visor, which can give every piece of world building a new definition. You could absolutely play the game in a more aggressive fashion, going guns blazing, and be on your merry way, but using the scan visor gives you information about Talon 4 itself. This is where quite a lot of world building comes from. A lot of what you're able to scan can give you background information that takes what might seem like another day for this faithful bounty hunter and makes it feel like something more. In fact, this adventure does admittedly feel like something more. As well, it leads to the same conclusion. I feel like the experience lies within the journey, not the destination. Provided you have the necessary equipment, you can just take any direction you want to in this game and find some kind of result from it. There is a hint system that clues you about what's the most necessary task at the moment, but not only does it not tell you how to get to it, but you also don't necessarily need to go there in order to progress right then and there. I mean, you can, but it's totally not necessary, and I do appreciate the willingness to branch out and give this adventure its own definition. And I think that describes the entire game in a nutshell. The adventure is what you make of it. Metroid Prime is a game I find myself coming back to when I just want to be taken to another world and just get lost and enamored. I always find myself fascinated with all of what Talon 4 has to offer in terms of design and lore, and they blend really well with the challenges the game gives you, which are just fun and memorable. Even if there is a section in the game that isn't as good as the rest, the game always manages to pull itself together with the more entertaining and engaging moments and have them easily take the limelight. Even though this is one of the most popular entries in the series, I believe it should be respected and treasured even more for how many good design choices were made here, and how much it brought a new definition to the Metroid series, and just adventure games in general. I have no problem putting this among my favorite games of all time, and this is a game I think that everyone should at least try out, one way or another. Everyone, let's keep talking about this game. Let's uphold what it does phenomenally, and let's allow Metroid Prime's legacy to live on. Okay, my time is up with this open collab, so I'm passing the baton to whoever I'm putting next in line. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you all next time.